What's poppin', people? It's Dante filming with the GoPro Mini 1080p 30 FPS exported to 720p for that crispy HD small file size quality. And today we're gonna be doing some ASMR berry picking. Whoa. Yeah, so just walking towards the Schuylkill River Trail, always admiring the beauty in both nature and mankind's creations. Check it out, we're building tall structures to stack each other on top of one another and yeah, live like this. Welcome to the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Check it out, there's a vehicle driving by. Look, there's a big metal chariot. That metal chariot is going to and fro. Wow, look at the clouds. I like when there's a little bit of clouds in the sky. You know, it's a sunny day, but there are some clouds out and about. Jeez, look at this, guys. Do you see what this says? I don't even want to say it out loud, you know? That's terrible. That's terrible. You know, what is that? Why are people so anti-cop? It's just a strange phenomenon. I feel as though like a lot of these graffiti artists that just like scratch these angsty things, you know, perhaps they're skateboarders that had a poor encounter with an officer that told them to stop grinding the ledge. You know, we do have a skate park that's just about a stone throw away from this location that I'm standing at, that is like a multi-million-dollar plaza that is incredible. I mean, that's just my like assumption though, you know, like I don't know who wrote that, but like that's my assumption. You know, I assume that they just had some like, you know, poor encounter with the cop that yelled at them for skateboarding or something. It's like, all right, it's gonna be all right, buddy. So yeah, just getting the day started, walking down the trail. I think this is the best way to start the day. You know, just go for a nature walk. Proud to trail. Yeah, I think I don't know, like a lot of the graffiti, like I mean, I have you know, I like street art and stuff, but like some of the places they choose to tag, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, what was the point of that shitty chicken scratch? Like genuinely, like I'm starting to feel like critiquing all of this street art. Some of it's just garbage. What is with the architecture too, by the way? I don't know if you can see, but like some of these pillars, they're just like slanted, like something about, like maybe that's needed or something, and because of the way that it's formed. I don't know anything about architecture and the formation of these sort of structures, but that doesn't look good. Like there's something about that. Like it just looks like it's gonna collapse. Yeah, I remember when I was exploring in East Jerusalem in Shafat refugee camp, these Palestinian men put me to work at a construction site. I climbed down the ladder to make some photographs at the site. I thought that it would be interesting, and my friend and I, we just sort of threw ourselves down the ladder, and you know, with the lack of communication, you know, the language barrier, etc., they sort of just said, no, work, like they could say a few words. They handed me a pair of, I don't know if they gave me gloves, but they just gave me like a few wooden beams to carry around, and I just started working on this construction site. Quite fun memory. Okay, I almost I almost just had a fucking bad experience with doing parkour there. My coat got caught. Thankfully, it's okay. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure to be careful doing parkour. Don't bother people while they're skateboarding, and be careful while doing parkour, right? Maybe it's best to just leave the skaters alone, right? Let them throw themselves down the stairwells. I remember skateboarding as a kid. I would just throw myself down the stairs over and over again until I could get it. And it does feel really accomplishing when you do it, you know? It feels like you conquer this sort of fear, you increase your courage. I always found that wearing a lot of the pads and stuff was actually really critical in the skate park, because you could learn how to fall and, you know, get back up. And yeah, I've never had an injury from it. So I mean, yeah, maybe there's something to be said about the skate park, skateboarding with pads, and actually embracing safety when doing things. Just thinking about that because of my little encounter with the wooden stick there. At least I didn't get poked in the eye. Hey, Mexico, Mexico. So yeah, I was just recently thinking about oh, by the way, check it out, the minimalist shoes. These are the Vibram 5-finger Eco Wool, so they're wool. I've got toe socks and they're warm. I mean, it's like what, 32 Fahrenheit Fahrenheit or something. Feels fine to me, you know. It's not that cold. So yeah, they actually they work out pretty well in the winter, it seems, honestly. Depending if it's like below freezing, then I'll of course put on like regular shoes or whatever. But yeah, alas, barefoot is the future. Like, it just feels good to go barefoot and walk around in like the dirt, the grass, different surfaces and stuff. I think that there's something about the nature walk and these kind of shoes. Highly suggest it. What I find the most intriguing about wearing these shoes while practicing street photography is when I'm photographing and walking the streets, I intentionally, well, not even intentionally really, it's just kind of like natural. Like, it's just sort of my intuition, where I walk at a very slow pace, and maybe the shoes themselves. Oh, here's the beacon of truth. I love the beacon of truth here, when it's shining and reflecting the sun at the peak there, and then I can make a photograph of the sun reflecting. Yeah, perhaps we should follow the light, just follow the sun, stay out of the shade. You know, what is photography but merely painting with light? Yeah, it's really cool when it shines off the top there. I don't know, I mean, I don't like these kind of modern architecture pieces with like glass and stuff, but this one at least has some sort of interesting geometric form to it that makes it a little bit more beautiful than others. But I still think it's pretty ugly. Like the FMC building, this building, yeah, I don't know. I just like the way that it shines with the light. And yeah, maybe with high contrast black and white, we can just crush out the unimportant in the shadow darkness, and then highlight and illuminate what is important with the light, sort of forming shapes and etching lines around the subject that we photograph. Yeah, this seems to be a really simple approach to just go back to the bare bones of photography: light and shadow, light and darkness. Without light there is no dark, without dark there is no light. Maybe the road to subtraction and minimalism, and sort of just, even within our art and our creation of photographs, we can sort of just embrace simplicity, right? Just like stripping away all the unimportant and only shining light on what is crucial. Love listening to the sound of the birds. Like, this trail is really peaceful. Once you get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and, you know, the construction site over there, it's just feels right. I just feel good. My body, it just naturally gravitates towards the water like a magnet. And I'm really grateful that we have this space here in the city for me to start the day. Truly. And so yeah, you know, I think with all this like street photography, art, whatever, I think it's merely just a way to affirm life itself, where, I mean, life can feel quite meaningless. It can feel, you know, like a mundane, dull existence, you know. I just finished reading this book by Friedrich Nietzsche, The Gay Science, and the sort of famous claim to the death of God, you know, the death of the Christian God, you know, beyond morals. But also the most interesting aspect of this book that I found was the eternal recurrence, where, you know, can you can you walk the same lane every single day and still find something to uplift in a photograph by embracing the mundane, right? Like, can you return to the same place and live the same life on repeat until the day that you die and still thrive, you know? I think the eternal recurrence is interesting, where, you know, you sort of just wake up every day and maybe life can feel same, mundane. But when you're making photographs and you're creating things and sort of making something out of nothing, using the camera, sort of wielding the camera as a sword to strike through the chaos and the complexity of life, and, you know, all the ups, the downs, the joyful moments, the sad moments, you know, you can really give yourself this superpower to transcend this sort of meaningless existence and give it deeper and rich meaning. I really find that photography, being a very young medium and just a young art form generally, still excites me every single day. You know, when I wake myself up in the morning with eyes wide open with this insatiable lust for life, I mean, I just want to experience more and more each day. I find that, you know, you can really thrive as a photographer by embracing the simple, the mundane, the things that are overlooked, whether it's the textures on the wall, the trees barren of leaves, the people that are sitting under the steeple, right? Like everything that you see on a loop, on a daily routine, on a daily walk, that sort of eternal recurrence, you know, where it's very rare to find extravagant moments. It's very rare to find these sort of spontaneous things that are oftentimes sought after as a street photographer, right? Those kind of one-of-one moments. But maybe the ultimate goal with street photography is to embrace the mundane, where I believe that the mundane, it really is the name of the game. In the past, I approached my photography with this sort of documentary mindset, or documentary photographer approach, you could say, or whatever. You know, I never really thought too much about this. It sort of just naturally happened throughout my practice, where, you know, I learned on the streets of Philly. Well, actually, what's funny is I learned in the woods, right? So I lived up in the Andorra neighborhood, or Manayunk, you know, both these neighborhoods, and we had the Wissahickon in the backyard, right? So I would go to the woods with my uncles, either the Leica M3 or I had the Nikon FM, and I would make photographs of trees. You know, it's like the first place I photographed. I would kind of just go into the woods and tinker, and then I started taking the bus down to the center of the city and made pictures on the streets candidly, just naturally. I didn't really even think about it. I just started practicing street photography without even knowing what it is, because I lived near the city. And, you know, once I moved down here many years ago with my family, I just started to practice street photography every day in the streets. And, you know, I would photograph Market Street the same way I photograph it today. And just observing the change over the past decade, it's quite mind-boggling, from, you know, when I was merely in high school to now photographing as a 27-year-old, whatever. It's just like, it's just amazing the way that, like, time, you know, sort of passes, and you see, and I still see the same person on the street, where Philly is a big city, but it's relatively small and very walkable. So, you know, you do see the same thing and the same person every single day. And yeah, I just think embracing that sort of eternal recurrence is wise. You know, where I've had this experience photographing in Baltimore that was much more challenging. I had to, you know, carry around the Ricoh GR2 in the pocket and sort of not appear as a photographer, chat with people, buy the loose cigarette, smoke one, chill in the corner, you know, kind of just like blend in, whatever, and like do this sort of documentary approach of, you know, making an effort to engage more with the people on the street rather than just making candid snapshots like in Philadelphia. Then traveling to Jerusalem, studying there, and photographing all around Israel and Palestine, I learned very quickly that it's necessary to interact. It's necessary to engage. When you're traveling to new places, you naturally wind up making this sort of effort to communicate or get to know a place on a deeper level. And while you interact with strangers throughout the travels and making photographs, you can still remain a fly on the wall and make candid pictures with the street photography aesthetic. And that's where I blended these two sort of approaches together, of making candid snapshots similarly to how I learned in Philly, to then throwing myself into these various places throughout the world and just approaching the streets in my own way, I guess, you know, where I never went into any location particularly with the mindset of making a story, or, you know, this notion of like being a visual storyteller. Like, I'll never forget when I was getting shot at photographing at the border of Calandia or Jericho in the West Bank. I would be laughing and just like speaking to my friend about it, like, oh, we're visual storytellers, right, man? Like, yeah, like it's just kind of funny to me, like all of these like notions. And also I found very early on it's just way more wise to not take yourself seriously, even in these situations when you're photographing, you know, refugees and villages and foreign places. Like, it's way better to be playful. I would walk around just beatboxing and just like dancing with strangers. You know, when you don't speak the local language of at a place, you can easily communicate just with dance and song and just being playful and not so serious with the camera, and just carrying an Instax camera and gifting prints to people. Like, this process has always been a part of me. And yeah, maybe it would be a good idea for me to carry it over here to Philadelphia. I mean, kind of just speaking out loud about it, but like, I think actually it's a good idea. I could probably make more in-depth photographs in different neighborhoods and places that I'm not familiar with in the city. You know, I'm a center city guy, so I just kind of shoot my own neighborhood, and I think that's a good one. You know, it's like, now being here and being grounded in my city, I think I could make work here for the rest of my life. You know, I have no desire to go over to New York, which is close by. You know, I'm Philly born and raised. I feel as though it's my duty to photograph here and just embrace this mundane city and make the best out of it. You know, I think yeah, I think the goal is ultimately to make new photographs. You know, it's not that serious. I don't care too much about these, you know, serious photo projects or anything. I kind of just shoot for myself ultimately. It's like, it's just a way to live. It's like a way of life or something, I think. Yeah, it just gives life more meaning. That's really it, you know. There's my shadow. Yeah, I think with videos, you know, I just like making photos. I just like making videos. My frustration with a lot of YouTube stuff is you don't really know who these people are. They put on a persona. Everyone's an actor. The world's a stage. I'm sick and tired of acting. I don't want to act anymore. I don't want to pretend. I'm not an actor, okay? I'm What is the person at the orchestra that conducts, the conductor? Yeah, I'm the conductor of the stage. I'm the one who's setting all the music in motion. I think yeah, everyone's merely an actor on these platforms like social media. It's just bad. I don't think it's healthy. So to go off the grid and just speak candidly, it gives me a sense of like confidence or courage to just continuously share my perspective, my individual experience. You know, perhaps is the goal of an artist to share your POV, your perspective, and yeah, not be so serious. You know, I don't think you need to know too much about the history of art or photography. I never really got into it. You know, I'm just now, after all these years of photographing, starting to dabble and read and research, because ultimately, when you're more naive and foolish, I think you produce more pure works. And so my heuristic is to not trust any of these artists and photographers or curators and people that are constantly name dropping, or, you know, just like sharing what their definitions of street photography are, or their definitions of, you know, documentary photography and photojournalism and landscape. And like, there's no genre. Like, street photography is an ethos. I don't know, I mean, it's more of a philosophy, if anything, to me. And perhaps street photography is the roots of the medium itself. And so, yeah, I don't know. Beautiful day, coming to an elevated space. Yeah, I find myself in a state of bliss. Perfect place to look out into the distance. I love gazing at the horizon and just empowering myself. Oh, I've been carrying books around, so like I'm trying to just go through all of Nietzsche's books. Now I have less books at Zarathustra. There's me at the top of the mountain, the Ubermensch. Let's find out what he has to say about this concept. Admittedly, I've actually never really got into reading books until this past year. Never read books, and I think it's good. Now I'm just starting. Trying to get this book back in. Yeah, it's like, like I don't trust all these like academics just like sitting inside reading all day. Like, why not just go out there and experience life in the spirit of play? Then you can come back with some sort of real wisdom. I don't think it's found in the books. I just like carrying it because it's better than fucking looking at your phone. Yeah, beautiful day.